Woof. All right. Welcome back to a live edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie O'Leary, and part-time co-host, Alec Kreidhamel. Rutgers lost in a heartbreaker, 44-41 in the Rate Bowl. They were up 17 points in the second half. They had a 10-point halftime lead, and they blew it to lose by 3 to the Wildcats. We'll have everything on this game and more. We'll have take your questions in a moment. But this podcast is presented to you once again by Night and Day Apparel. Hey, Rutgers fans, get ready to slam dunk your style with Night and Day Apparel. Cheer on your Scarlet Knights this basketball season in our exclusive Rutgers gear. From trend-setting designs to lifestyle garments, we've got you covered with everything you need to support your team in comfort and flair. Stand out in the crowd and show your passion for Rutgers basketball with designs that celebrate every dribble, dunk, and victory. Use our promo code Rutgers Rivals to get 10% off your purchase. Don't wait. Head to Night and Day Apparel today and gear up for game day. Go Knights. We are also presented to you by BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to live in-game betting. I'm going to sneeze, so I'm going to pause this really quick.
That's true.
I'm sorry.
It didn't work.
The earliest odds to live in-game betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds from everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC. Head to BetOnline today, and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get a welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. So I might have gotten a little rambunctious on the halftime spaces. The offense just got a little too stale in the second half, and the defense ran out of gas. I think kind of might just be that simple, but love to hear your guys' takes on how this game went macro level. Alec, how do you feel this game went for Rutgers?
Yeah, interesting.
This is going swimmingly so far.
You're on mute,
You had
Alec.
your ears blown out by me sneezing, and you had
I'm very
Ghost
sorry.
Alec talking to you. No, you're all good.
I'm very sorry. I'm a little bit distracted. I'm watching my beloved Seattle Seahawks struggle with the 4-11 Chicago Bears right now. So
Alec
my
gets
apologies.
one night.
Yeah, Alec gets the sick fuck award for this Thursday night.
Yeah,
for
my
Rutgers in
apologies.
Seattle.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the game. Yeah, I think it was less Rutgers running out of gas, which I think they definitely did at a certain point, but it was also Kansas State making a lot of adjustments. It really seems like they sent a lot more pressure at Ethan Kaliakmanis, and I don't know how much of it was, the defense. The defense got a couple of big stops, but they didn't really feel like they were in control at all throughout the game. I mean, Kansas State ran for, I think it was 347 yards rushing. 347 yards rushing, 542 yards overall. It just did not feel like they were in control of this game at all, really, on defense. The offense was absolutely in control. They had 319 yards in the first half alone. They only had 82 in the second half. But the Kansas State defense just made a lot of really good adjustments. There was just no room in the trenches in that second half to do anything, run or pass. It felt like there were a couple of big swing plays that kind of delayed that outcome. I guess the big punt return by Christian Dremel, which, oh my goodness, 67-yard punt return for Christian Dremel. What the heck was that? His last game, I mean, that was crazy. Some big plays here and there as Geno Smith just got strip sacked by former Seahawk Darrell Taylor. So I'm gonna let Richie take this one before I lose my mind.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, high level thoughts, like they played pretty damn well on offense. Like that was the offensive masterpiece until the ending. The ending, they got figured out, and Kirk went back to his old, very predictable offense, and it kind of shit the bed. But like the first half, you couldn't ask for a better half of football for Rutgers. Like I think that was the most points they scored in a half this year. Most points they scored in a half in God knows how long. But yeah, I mean, Kirk Straka showed some things today, and it made me more optimistic, not even for today's game, but for the future, just because of all the weapons they're bringing in that are going to help this offense even more. So if he's doing this with walk-on Christian Dremel, former Monmouth receiver Dymere Miller, KJ Duff's going to get more snaps, Ian Strong's going to get more snaps. Even without Monangai, who's arguably the best running back in the Big Ten, they still had a true freshman out there run for 100-something yards on, 18 carries, I think it was? I think it was actually 16 when he hit 100, but it doesn't matter really. Defense, it just proves you need a coordinator more than anything. Greg obviously knows football, knows how to coach defense, but there's only so much you can do when guys are still banged up. You saw Flip Dixon go down. You saw Tyrone Powell go down in the second play of the game it was. He did come back. He did play pretty well when he came back too, actually. But after that, there's still no depth at certain positions, and specifically that linebacker spot. I thought the D line was creating nice pressures at times, and they kind of slowed down towards the end of the game, which also screams for why you need more defensive linemen and more veterans and via the portal and all that this offseason. But I think guys got tired in the end, and I think the defensive coaching just wasn't there. That's a Big 12 offense. That's arguably the best quarterback you faced all season, and they just couldn't stop him. Mobile quarterbacks and Rutgers defense under Greg Schiano just are the worst mixture of all time, basically.
Yeah, I don't think Avery Johnson really beat us a ton on the ground. He did have a few nice runs, but I mean, one of the big reasons we lost is just the offense getting stale in the second half. In the second half, our first 6 offensive drives, we started with a run, and those runs combined for 0 yards on those 6 runs. And they set up 3rd and longs consistently. The longest run we had on any of those plays was 3 yards. So we were constantly in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 16 type situations that are really tough to actually convert. We did find a way to score a touchdown on 2 of those drives, but on 3 of those 6 drives, we went 3 and out. On a 4th, we threw an interception on 2nd down after a 6-yard loss on 1st down. And the other 2, we scored a touchdown. But I just think, like, part of the book on Kansas State was they play so aggressively to stop the run and to, jump routes, that trick plays are something that are easy to pull off on them. And we weren't able to pull off any trick plays on Kansas State. We didn't really have any opportunities in the special teams game to block a punt or block a kick, which is something they've had trouble with all year as well. They've had trouble snapping the ball. And defensively, we just had a lot of bad run fits, the same kind of problems we've had all year. Like, they had time after time, they were just gaping holes along the sideline for the running backs because they were just, sealing off blocks to the outside. They were sealing off blocks to the middle really well. Our linebackers weren't filling proper holes, and we saw us get gashed a few times, and they just have too much speed and too much quick strike ability to start flailing on offense because one moment we're up 17 points, next moment we're up 5. Literally they closed the 17-point gap in 4 minutes of game time to 5 points, and then it became like they were playing with house money in the second half, especially being down after going 3 and out and then us scoring. It's like at that point you don't have anything left to really, hold back. They just kind of went for it. And we didn't, we've had a lot of trouble with leads sealing games off this year. You could think to Virginia Tech, where we had a big lead. We should have won that game by 30 points. Washington, we had a big lead most of the second half, and that felt more like us holding on than winning the game, essentially. And just in general, like, we haven't seemed to find, until that Michigan State game, the ability to really kind of just step on a team's throat and, from a big lead, grow it bigger in the second half. But just really disappointing given how this game was going to lose. Some stats here. I'll pull up a screen share before we start taking some questions. I mean, you guys already asked questions, but before we actually start displaying the questions, Ethan, I think he had his most first half yards this game with 170. He only finished with 237. Kind of give you an idea of how things slowed down. On the day, he was 14 of 32, which looks really gross, and it kind of was gross in the second half. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The running backs came to play, though. Antoine Raymond, 18 carries, 113 yards, 3 touchdowns. Sean Benjamin, he had 7 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown. He had another touchdown through the air, which was a beautiful play call in the red zone. Ian Strong had 100 yards in the first half. I think he only had 1 catch in the second.
Yep.
KJ Duff had 58 yards on 3 catches. Damian Miller didn't have a catch in the first half, 2 catches for 26. Antoine Raymond, 1 catch for 16. Christian Dremel, 1 catch for 15. Ben Black, 1 catch for 10. Christian Dremel also with the rare punt return. I think we talked about this before. We started recording, but that was a bit of a surprise given I think he's maybe had 4 or 5 returns all season.
Yeah.
They weren't able to really develop enough pass rush. We had 1 sack in the first half, 1 in the second. just a disappointing game given how it started. Not sky is falling type game, but I'm pretty bummed we lost that game. We shouldn't have lost. Anytime you have a 17-point second half lead, losing is inexcusable. So I'm not even going to try and make excuses. We should have won, and we didn't. But kind of bummed.
Yeah, these guys left everything out on the field too. Like I said, Tyron Powell's banged up, came back in. Robert Longerbeam's been banged up all season and was out there putting it all out there out on the field. He literally, I should have had 2 picks. He had the 1 pick. I thought Kaj Sanders played really well for a freshman. I actually there's a lot of good moments, and there's a lot of, you got to look a little bit towards the future and say like, hey, like they have a lot of bright spots. A lot of young guys really showed out today, and they're going to be on the team next year. So that's the only promising thing from the loss that you can really take away.
Yeah, and at the same time, I want to. This wasn't like Rutgers lost to like Akron or whatever and gave up a bunch of yards. This is a legitimate Big Ten offense. Like they played like one of the best offensive units. I want to say not just in the Big 12, but in almost the entire country. The first 8 weeks of the season, they were just built to put a lot of stress. They were doing a lot of motion, a lot of stress on Rutgers linebackers, and that was really what kind of set up a lot of their success on offense. And it felt like they kind of got away from that, trying to go drop back passing once Rutgers got that 2-possession lead. And then, once they got the momentum back, Dylan Edwards had that big run. Dylan Edwards, he's legit. I know he didn't get a lot of run with obviously DJ Giddens in front of him who's going to the NFL, but he has some great speed, and he really showed it today. So yeah, it was tough. This is a really talented offense, and they were kind of built to expose Rutgers' weaknesses in, I guess, the back seven. The way that they used a lot of speed, a lot of plays out towards the sidelines to make them stretch the field, those linebackers, and get out and make those tackles over towards the sidelines as well. So yeah, it was kind of a recipe for trouble for the defense. The offense obviously has I think it has the highest floor I think you've had in a long time going into a season, which is definitely a good positive to take away because everyone that was out on that field, at least in the skill position groups, are all but 1 or 2 are coming back as well. So that's a good thing to focus on for next year. And then you got some reinforcements coming in as well, like CJ Campbell and DT Sheffield. So the offense has a lot to like. Yeah, that's like Richie said. That's what you can look ahead to the future for. A lot of these guys are coming back, so yeah, the offense has a legitimate floor to fall back on.
Yep, totally agree there. They are going to need some defensive playmakers, especially across the middle of the field as the portal continues on. Only 2 more days for players to actually enter the portal, though, so that's something to watch. Who is left on the sidelines or in the portal or in the pool will be interesting to see. Alex on Twitter said a couple of things hurt the most. Sad end of the season, defensive performance in this bowl, and genuinely, Monungai wouldn't have changed much, in my opinion. I agree. Monungai playing was not a factor in Rutgers losing this game. Antoine Raymond and Deshaun Benjamin ran the ball really well combined. They had 25 rushes for 146 yards rushing. That's over 5 yards a rush. That's about as much as you can ask for 4 rushing touchdowns. Monungai, as great as he is, the game's not decided by him deciding to play or not to play. Josh Tellum, he says, I think this bowl game shows we need to hire a big time DC or a big hire for the DC position. You need someone in there who can pick up the pieces and rebuild. I mean, anytime you lose your coordinator in the season, we saw it several times with losing Gleason and, having Nuns get bumped up to head coach / OC a couple times. Like, it's just not something it's easy to adapt to, even with a few weeks of time. Like they were saying, Harris-Simiak broke his defense down to the studs the bye week and rebuilt it back up, and things were humming again. So then to lose him and then have somebody else come in and call the plays was tough. I think they'll hire somebody good for the defensive coordinator eventually.
Sorry about that. On top of that, I mean, there's no one else on staff that could call plays really either. Like they had this whole setup where it was Heatherman at linebackers coach, kind of was gonna just be the predecessor to Harris-Simiak, and then he ends up leaving, gets a DC job elsewhere, and it's like, oh shit. Like then Harris-Simiak leaves, and then you're like, okay, now we have Orphy, who's never coached or never play called before, Colin Farrell and Campenny, all 3 who have never been coordinators before. And it's like, okay, well, Greg has to do it now. I think it also points to the fact that there's always these crazy rumors that like Greg has his fingerprints all over everything. Is it his defense at the end of the day? Yes, but he's not also meddling with it as much as people like to think either, and that proves it today. Basically, I would say.
Yep.
But mile uphill for DC.
Yeah, we'll see if that ends up happening. Scrolling down, feel free to highlight any comments you guys think are noteworthy. King Joss said that it's heartbreaking to watch. Yep, can't agree more there.
Well, yeah, I'll go to that one first.
Yeah, Delmarva Fishing, thanks again for the donation. Oh my God, we need to hit the transfer portal hard for defensive players. Thanks for your awesome coverage all year. This loss is a microcosm of our season. Yeah, well said, because I would say in 11 of our 13 games in total this season, let's say 10 of our 13 games now, the offense played well enough to win. The only games that didn't play well enough to win were the Nebraska game, were the Wisconsin game, and the USC game. Every other game, I think we played well enough on offense to win a game. Defense let us down, so I agree there.
Yeah, I was going to highlight this one. But I don't understand this one, because all the new players have shown something. Like Antoine Raymond's shown a lot. Like KJ Duff has shown a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think who else is young or new. Taj White actually looks pretty solid today, and looks like might be one of your starting tackles next year. Takaj Sanders looks really good. Jabome had moments this season where he looks better towards the end of the year. I thought he regressed a little bit today. Early on, he was making some plays, and then he kind of regressed a little bit. Jordan Walker's starting to show out. Like, I think there's a lot. Like DK Gilly played a lot today. Who else? Antonio White played today, a kid that hasn't really played at all this season. So like, there's a lot of potential for these young bucks. Like, I would not say the fact no tight end. I saw someone else say this on social media too. They blamed the fact that Rutgers didn't have a tight end for the last like couple games. Like that, they didn't use the tight end anyway previously. They used Kenny Fletcher a little bit. Whatever, it is what it is. But having an extra blocker out there also helps the run game a ton. So I don't know. There's a lot of up and coming players. I wouldn't say that there's no one has shown anything, because I feel like I could just name like 5 or 6 that played as true freshmen, and not only played but made significant contributions.
Yeah. Can we highlight that again really quick?
Oh, yeah.
Because I want to ask something. Richie, how long have you run?
I don't want to. I know what you're gonna say.
JR site. How did people still spell his name Ritchie? Was there a famous like character in a movie or a TV show that spelled their name Richie that way? Because that is like a repeated thing over and over and over. People spell your name wrong. So I just want to put it out there. Is Richie, and this isn't a shot directly at you, Ignacio. This is more of a macro level comment for everybody who listens. Get his name right at this point. Come on, guys.
Like the only like famous movies, Richie Rich, and it's Richie.
That's what I was thinking.
That's like, yeah. And it's played by the most famous Macaulay Culkin. Alec, you okay over there? I feel like your game's going pretty bad.
No, not particularly. Pharaoh Brown just caught a pass in the flat and got strip sacked, and it got taken back for a touchdown. So no, not doing great.
Remember when I said that the Bears defense is good?
I'm reading the officials' lips right now, and I think they just ruled them down by contact. So I think the touchdown just got taken off the board. Anyways, heck, even Richie April was no T. So
there you go.
I don't know if you know that Rico Knows guy, but he said Eric O'Neill is the best edge in the portal. Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know who Rico Knows.
No, different guy.
I'll look him up.
I don't like Rico Knows for a lot of different reasons, but I respect some of his football takes, and yeah, I don't disagree with him.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, he's a dog, and I still feel good about him ending up at Rutgers, but it hasn't happened as quickly as I think we thought it would.
I guess we could say it too, because I don't think we said it on the pod yet, but he visited last Friday. Mm-hmm. If you have the Night Report premium subscription, you knew that though already, because
which I'm sure most people listening did know that already, because they are subscribers.
Yeah, smart people.
David Brown. This wasn't the mid-round I thought it would be, but 14 for 32 was the reason after the pick. The game went down the tubes. Hard disagree there. The game was not lost because of the interception. We threw an interception when we were up by 2 scores. The defense, we were up by 11 points when the interception was thrown. The defense had just allowed a 65-yard touchdown and then went on to allow another long score later in the game. I don't know. I could watch that second half, be like, the offense is the reason that we lost this game. It's kind of rings a little hollow, like it's the principal name in Simpsons. He's trying to
Skinner.
It's like
Skinner.
Yeah, Skinner's like,
Skinner.
Are they out of touch? No. Am I out of touch? Nope. The kids are out of touch.
I guess to play devil's advocate, I do think that interception really like flipped the tide a lot more than if they just gone 3 and out and punted, because it gave them the ball in that plus field position and it let them stay in their script of getting a lot of downhill running and trying to stretch the field with some of the short passes. So I don't think the game was lost because of that, but it certainly kind of sped up the momentum shift for Kansas State, I will say.
Also,
after that interception, they scored a touchdown. Then we went 3 and out. They went 3 and out, and then we had a 5-play touchdown drive. So I mean, we were up by 12 with 14 minutes left in this game. There was still a lot of plays between those two.
Most of those stats are from the first half, and he went 8 of 18 in the first half. And I thought he looked pretty good in that 8 of 18. Even the announcers were saying, like, both quarterbacks, 9 of 17 and 8 of 18 in the first half. And everyone was just like, that's insane, because they were both kind of slinging it. And his second half, he almost threw for 50%. He went 6 of 14, and he had his own touchdown was in the second half. So it's like, it's not like as much as like completion percentage does matter. I feel like in this case, it really didn't matter as much, because he still played good. Like I thought Ethan actually had a really big game.
He's throwing a lot of deep passes too, and those are higher value attempts. But I mean, his first half was significantly better than the second, in fairness. But I mean, the offense again is not the reason we lost this game. It's because we couldn't stop them in the second half to save our lives.
Yeah, and also I think Kansas State's defense, one of the things they did adjust to, in addition to setting a lot more pressure, they also started to clamp down, really step up and time those in-breaking routes really well. Like, in the in not just the first half, but for a lot of November when they got back on track and was scoring a lot of points, they were getting a lot of those in-breakers to you guys like Strong, guys like Miller, things like that, because they would kind of sell out for the deep ball, and then they would, they would get some kind of intermediate route and it would work pretty well. And then they started to time those up really well. And then when you factor on also putting a lot of pressure on Caligmanis, he doesn't have the time to throw it deep as well. So it kind of shut down that part of the passing offense.
Yep. Couldn't agree more, Alec. Jersey Jet asks, what is the board you guys always speak of? For those who have listened and might not know, Richie is the publisher at thenightreport.com, which is the Rivals affiliate for Rutgers. He covers everything Rutgers related, as you guys are aware, but there's a premium board there that has all the information as it comes out. Obviously, we can't always get to a pod right away. So if you want to know information as it comes out immediately, Richie will always have you covered there. So that's Rutgers.rivals.com, and you can hit the subscribe tab at the top to become a premium member. And that's the board we're talking about. But
the roundtable message board, the most popular, proven by statistics, message board, Rutgers website on the internet/web. And if you really want to sign up, and I'll give you a super, super cheap promo code. I can either give you the one that's free for 30 days and you can try it. You don't like it, cancel it. Cancel it the next day. Sign up and can't, because you have to put your credit card info in technically. But if you don't want to renew it, I'd be shocked, but I will give you like a 60% off promo code if you just message me on Twitter or message me on here and email me or whatever the kids do. Don't postcard me or send me a letter like the old school stuff.
90% of the site's revenue goes to Richie's hat collection.
Yeah. Someone actually asked me the other day, they're like, what was your like kind of hat do you want for Christmas? Do you have any hats you want to buy in 2025? I was like, dude, I don't know.
Somebody asked how much it is. I don't know. I'm surprised there's this many people, but
yeah, that's great.
For the year, I think it's $99, but if you want to go month to month, it's $10 a month. So
almost pro time trip.
Yeah. This Toil, NJ. Their D was selling out. We were running right into it. That's why I mean, like the offense just got stale in the second half. We had opportunities to kind of do things a little differently, to maybe throw a change up against the defense Kansas State was running at us, especially since if you listen to our preview pod, you know that they're very, very aggressive and they're going to try and throw haymakers. And we did not throw any kind of counter punches to their haymakers. We just kind of ran right into their fists as they were throwing them sometimes, which was a bummer.
Also, I'm going to trust Fonseca's research on this one. He tweeted it out before, but they've only ran 12 screens all season long. Like they're not going to do it. They don't like to do it.
Yeah, no, you're right. They don't run them often, but they've had a lot of success when they have. My mind immediately goes back to the Virginia Tech game, and I think there was one other one that went for a lot of yardage. But feel free to keep those questions rolling in. I'll answer this. David Brown said 14 of 32 is a great game. It was the run game that was rolling. You're glazing. I'm logging off. No, this is glazing. He had a much better first half than the second half. I think he missed a lot of throws that he had pressure underneath him in the second half. It wasn't his best game. I'm not saying that he had an amazing game. I think his first half was good. Second half was average. This is not us saying that he had the best game of his career like I thought he would. He was on pace to have the best game of his career in the first half. If you just look at his numbers from his rushing totals and his passing yards, he had 170 passing yards in the first half. I think he had like 40 rushing yards in the first half. Then things got stodgy and didn't work in the second half. So, bummer.
Yeah, that was another thing. They stopped having those, or at least he stopped taking those runs. It felt like he was really doing a lot to move the chains, or at least get them in a better position to do so in that first half with some of those runs. It really, like you said, an aggressive Kansas State defense caught them kind of off guard at times. I would have liked to see a little bit more of that because, again, it's the last game of the season, so you kind of have to leave it all out there. Yeah, it definitely wasn't his best game of the season, but it was a good enough one that the game was not lost on Ethan Calicman's arm.
10 pressures today. It's a lot, actually.
Yep.
Not great. What do you call it? Dante Chin struggled too. Even Holland Pierce had a moment where he struggled, and he just barely grabbed Ethan's ankle and made him do a split essentially. But yeah, you're right. A lot more pressure in the second half. I wish it would show when these pressures came, whether it be in first half or second half, because I feel like it was entirely the second half mostly. Because when you gave him time, he was slinging it again.
Yeah, no, he was when he had the time, like you said, and when he had the ability. I mean, he was rolling out and making plays, but not making excuses for him. He didn't have a great second half.
No.
Yeah, and that interception is just one of those plays that you can't make. Rolling to your left, throwing back across your body. Even the broadcaster said it. Like when you do that, you're just asking for an interception because the defensive back is going to be there to undercut it, and that's exactly what happened. So, yeah, it definitely was not his best game, but yeah, it wasn't his worst. So, yeah.
Anthony Buccelli asked, why didn't Needham get his starting right tackle job back? I think he's playing pretty hurt right now. I think it's as a tight end blocking, you have a lot less responsibility than as a tackle. As a tackle, you're primarily trying to move laterally, while as a tight end, you're primarily moving front and back. So I imagine he's probably dealing with some kind of lower leg or groin injury that doesn't really allow him to perform at his peak capacity, but he's still healthy enough to go out there and throw his body in front of somebody, but not necessarily keep up with edge rushers, which is what a tackle needs to do.
Alec, you posted the availability report about 2 hours late. Do better at your job, man. He was on
that
it
was
though,
me.
right?
That was the conference.
I know.
That was the conference is doing. That wasn't me.
But he was on it still, if I recall.
He was
correctly.
listed as questionable. Yes.
Yeah. So he's been banged up. He can't play line, but he can block, sort of, kind of. Be a body. I mean, 6'4", 6'5", 300. Just throw him in front of someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, Schiano playing Schiano ball at the end of the games is driving me crazy. All the runs on first down and second half were predictable. Yep, we all saw them coming, and we all could have probably called defensive plays on first down against us in the second half.
First down,
just really
ask
frustrating.
Madden. Ask Madden.
Yeah.
First down, up run, up the middle.
Yep.
Yeah, insane.
Josh Tellum says cautiously optimistic about the NFL future of our upcoming draft class. I'm not sure if he means our recruiting class or the guys entering the NFL after this year, but
I think the latter.
Yeah,
you're
that's
probably
what I think
right.
too.
I think this will be the most guys drafted in a year in a long time. I don't have a specific time frame, but it's probably in at least a decade, probably the most guys Rutgers will have drafted in 1 year.
I mean,
with a lot of guys I could see sticking. I could see Monongai sticking, Pierce sticking. I could see easily one of the two corners between Eric Rogers and Longerbeam. I could see Dixon have an NFL career. I could see obviously Holland Pierce having an NFL career. Rutgers guys are, for whatever reason, I think Schiano just prepares them for what it's like in the NFL more than most coaches. So our guys seem to stick more often than most schools when they're drafted late. So.
The last time they had more than 2 in a single draft class was 2013 when they had 7. Wow. Yeah. So it's been a while, like you said. Yeah, 11 years since more than 2, and I think Monongai gets drafted, Pierce gets drafted, Powell gets drafted. After that, there's question marks. I mean, could Longerbeam get drafted? His size doesn't help him, but I thought he had a pretty good season still. Trying to think who else. Dixon, maybe get an undrafted free agent.
Shaquan Loyal is a great call out by Jersey Jet. Yep, I could see him get drafted.
Yeah, I think those late rounds are weird too, because like I didn't think Christian Braswell was going to get drafted. Now he's like a mainstay in NFL. It's like,
yep,
okay, never mind. Like
same with Izzy
for Trey Avery.
Izzy got drafted too, and I thought his size was going to hurt him.
Well, Izzy didn't get drafted actually.
He was undrafted.
He was an undrafted
He was a
free agent, but he's been a great player for Tampa. I want to hear everybody's opinion on Schiano after this year. I'll go first, I guess. I think Schiano, as a program leader, is great at stabilizing, great at selling a vision to recruits. Schiano, a head coach, is a little bit less talented than his recruiting persona. A lot of things we could nitpick about things he did this year. But in general, I think the biggest mistake he made this year was kind of overestimating his roster a bit. And then when we dealt with injuries, the drop-off was pretty steep from our starters to our backups. I think that's a confluence of reasons that happened. First and foremost was money. If we had more NIL, I'm sure he would have went after players in the portal. We didn't have that. I think revenue sharing is going to help us more than most schools with that aspect of things. But I also think that he relied way too much on top-level guys and didn't think that he would need depth because we didn't need it last year, because we didn't deal with any injuries last year. And then we dealt with injuries this year. I hope that we're just not thinking with like a 1-year mindset of like what happened last year. It's like the decision-making process moving forward. It's like, if you roll, a 12 and in craps, you immediately double down on, 12 the next throw. No, you realize you got lucky and have to spread your bets out a bit. And of course, sometimes you're going to hit 12 twice in a row and you're going to win a national championship game or something like that, but it's not likely. So I think we'll be we'll have a lot more depth next season, I'll say. But I think this was supposed to be a banner year, and it wasn't because the team was not constructed in a way that would support a banner year. Richie, what are your thoughts on Schiano after this year?
I think you said before, he's very good at building a program. He's very good at stabilizing a program, I guess you could say too. He'll get you to the level where you're comfortable winning a solid amount of games, your consistent bowl games. Again, I think most Rutgers fans, if you go back, I want to even say like 4 years ago or right before he got hired, I think everyone was just begging to get back to bowl games at this point. And they're getting that. Is he ever going to win a national championship? It's going to be very hard. It's going to be damn hard, especially with NIL and revenue sharing and all this other stuff being thrown into play. It's going to be very, very hard. Can he make the college football playoff as a Rutgers coach? I think depending on how the schedule lines up, there's a possibility. I think this year there was that possibility, but injuries hampered it quite a bit. On top of it, he's good at recruiting, and with revenue sharing, he should be able to help him a lot. We already saw that they're beating out like programs like Arkansas for receivers. Like this was before today. This Rutgers offense has never done what I saw them do today. It gave me like a little bit of glimmer of hope for the future. They're going out and upgrading every position, and he's willing to adapt. I feel like Greg Schiano 1.0 wasn't really willing to adapt and change things. Whereas like he was always had his hands on stuff. He always had his fingers on whether it be the offense or the defense or the play calling and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This time around, it seems like he's actually letting guys do their things. And he's also willing to adapt into versions of like, hey, we have a good running back, but I'm going to go get another running back that's better. And he saw that the depth was hurt at linebacker. Now he's going into the portal looking at linebackers, despite Mohamed Toure and Jabome probably the starters next year. They could even replace Jabome as a starter. Defensive line, defensive tackles. He saw them get abused this year at times during that 4-game stretch. Now he's trying to add a third one via the portal on top of the guys he's bringing back. So I think he's willing to adapt. I think he's willing to change some things and change the way he thinks about things, or in his words, what is it? If you don't like the way something is, change the way you think about it. He's changing the way he thinks about stuff. And that kind of gives me a little bit of hope and glimmer for the future. We'll see if it can change, because eventually you're going to have to hire someone that's not on one of your old staffs. So that's another difference. Is he willing to go out of his coaching tree and find someone and trust someone? Because it took a lot probably for him to trust Joe Harrisimiak calling plays. It's a guy he never met before, never really coached with. I mean, he did meet him before, but you know what I mean? He never coached alongside him. So now he has to do that again. And it is hard to trust coaches at the end of the day when you're in charge of the program. No matter what happens at the end of the day, people are looking and pointing at you. It's either your fault for why you're successful or your fault for why they're not. So I think he's still the right man for Rutgers. I don't think there's a better man out there for Rutgers. And end of rant.
Yeah, I'm still not sure of his ultimate ceiling. I think a national championship. I think, there are teams like Indiana that'll do it in a year, but I think it's just the nature of college football. Same with Big Ten championship. It's just too stacked. But like you guys said, I mean, he's a very good program builder and stabilizer. He has, at the very least, has a very high floor of bringing a program back to relevance, things like that. Now, his ceiling, like you guys said, is a little bit murky. I know I like what Richie said, where it's like he's adapted, especially for the newer age of college football, and he's been transparent in that he has to do so. I'm still in on him being the right guy for Rutgers as long as he wants to, unless things take a severe downturn, which I don't think they will. Yeah, I don't think this game really changed too much about the outlook of the program. I mean, it's the rate bowl. How much can you? And I think his recruiting is still going to, his recruiting is still going to stay at a high level. And I think revenue sharing is going to help that as well. And yeah, I think the way that this offseason has gone is definitely showing that he can, like Richie said, adjust to that new era and how you need to not just, plug holes here and there through the portal, but you need to, in essence, build through the portal, things like that, and still, develop guys. Like we've seen them take guys with multiple years to kind of keep that development active where you can develop guys while also bringing in from the transfer portal. So, yeah, this game didn't do too much to change that. Like Richie said, I still think he's the guy for the job. I don't think he's going to get fired. I don't think he definitely won't get fired at any time, really, barring something extremely unforeseen. But yeah, this game didn't do too much. I think this year it showed the pros and cons, the good and bad, the way, they kind of struggled in October to use their depth, but then also fully admitting they needed to change things. And that's what they did in November, and they finished off the season strong. So, very long-winded answer, but to bring it to a close, I still like Mike and Richie think he's the right man for the job, and I think he's stabilized this program to where it can be the next level. And his ceiling is still a little to be determined if he can actually bring them there.
I think you're on mute, Mike. That's two. That's two strikes, baby. One more, and I'm out of here.
Yep. Not going to get too deep into this question, but let's just say that he was dealing with a lot of injuries throughout the year, and he's done a lot for this program, and he is trying to position himself so that he can perform best for scouts in the combine and potentially these senior all-star games. So,
I mean, you saw both teams slipping all over the field too.
Yeah.
Like that is not a good field. Anything that's on a baseball field, we know from experience at this point because so many pinstripe bowls. Like it's just not good. Like it's never a good field.
Yep.
So Fenway Bowl next year?
No.
Stop.
I would go to it, but I don't.
I think that'd be cool to watch. But yeah.
Delmarva Fishing, thanks once again. Sorry the super chats are crashing out, but it seems like that one worked. So let's go. Feel free to highlight any of these you guys see that you want to talk about. Yes.
I mean, I could just shut this one down real quick. He's going to be Washington's defensive coordinator, it sounds like. So, yeah, he's gone. Steven Belichick's gone. He's gone. Corey Heatherman's re-signed. So I guess technically not gone because Kirk Shiraka did the same situation and then signed on with Rutgers after, but unlikely, I would say. Yeah.
Yep. Rich, this is up your alley.
I was going to say, just an update on how I'm doing. The Seahawks are still leading 6-3, and Caleb Williams just got sacked for what seems like the 10th time. This is the worst football game I've ever watched.
Turn it off. It's not good. Yeah.
Sounds
I don't know. Yeah, it sounds brutal.
Oh.
This one, James Madison, defensive end. Eric O'Neill visited Friday. Sounds very promising for Rutgers. Sounds like it's could more than likely end up in Rutgers' favor. Now that the bowl game's over, they're going to switch to full-on recruiting mode. This doesn't stop. I know Greg says all the time as a joke, but it's actually not a joke. It is a 365-day year now job between spring football, between recruiting, between portal, between high school, between evaluations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It is nonstop. That being said, I think if I could put in a future cast right now for him to end up at Rutgers, I would. We don't have transfer future cast because we're just an old network. I don't know.
You should change that.
Yeah, I know.
You don't like the way something works. You gotta change the way you think about it.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. That now other stuff for portal. I think you get another defensive end on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you get they want another defensive tackle. They want a linebacker. They would like a DB or two. They just got Jacoby Henderson. They would want a cornerback one though. Do you need another safety? I think that's where it goes wishy-washy because DK Gilly, they're very, very high on, and he played today. And he also played in 4 games on special teams. And we know Greg loves to put the freshmen on special teams that he knows are going to play in the future. DK Gilly can be elite. And he's massive too, by the way. If he can be like, I shouldn't even say elite. If he could be average at safety, I think I'm confident in putting him back there with a couple veterans between, not even a veteran because Kosh Sanders would be a second-year player. But Jacoby Henderson would be a veteran. Who else is at corner? I'm trying to think. Oh, Bo Mascow is going to be a third-year guy now. So I guess that's technically veteran status.
Al-Shadi Salam is like a 1.5 year guy, or I guess a year or two at corner.
He looked better today, I thought. Bo Mascow, man, I almost don't even know if you need a cornerback one anymore. Like he's been really good. And I don't know what it is. The bowl games come on and he just stars shine brightest in the bowls. Like he's been phenomenal, man. I love him as a corner. What else on here?
Honest thoughts on Kirk. You can bring us to the next level. I'm not impressed. Wondering your thoughts. Let's shake it out. Well, you just got an extension, so we're stuck with him, whether you like him or not. But if you just look at how the offense has performed this year, I think it's probably the highest scoring offense we've seen at Rutgers in 15 years. So I think it's hard to judge. I think it's hard to kind of say that he's doing a poor job when you just look at the pure numbers. I think the defense in the rare instance this year really let us down time and time again. What do you guys think?
27.9, and that's not including the bowl game. That is the most, and we are going pretty far back here. Here we go. 2009.
Yeah. So I said 15 years. Damn, I'm good.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. Who's the OC in 2009? Was it Kirk?
It might have been Kirk himself. I don't remember. He might have been co-offensive coordinator.
It was him and Kyle Flood.
Yeah,
no shit.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So that means it was Kirk. So I don't know.
Oh, by the way, I did some quick math. When you factor in the bowl game, that they finished the season 28.9 points per game.
28.8 in 2009. Wow. That's nutty, actually. Oh, geez. That's crazy. I think he gave me a lot of optimism today. In the past, I've said that Kirk is very stale, very boring with his offense. He really hasn't done anything that's impressed me. I think today impressed me a lot, and the last couple halves of the season, or last couple games of the season, impressed me a lot too. I didn't think Ethan was as good as he was this season too. On top of it all, I thought Ethan was better than that. You look at Ethan's previous stats, and they're meh, they're okay, whatever, they're average. But he does what the staff wants him to do, and I think 2026 is the year that's really going to intrigue me if Kirk is still around, which he probably will be. I don't see him really getting a head coaching job. I don't see him as a head coach type either. It's just not a knock on him. It's just who he is. I think 2026, when you have AJ Surace at quarterback, probably, I think that team has a chance to be like really special. I think next year they'll get another solid 7, maybe 8 wins. But the schedule gets a lot tougher too. You got to also factor in injuries and hope that doesn't happen ever again.
I gotta be honest, guys. I am running out of steam. If you have any questions you really want us to answer, feel free to fire those off in the chat. Not really feeling up to talk basketball right now, but
oh yeah, they lose that game, it's season's over.
Yeah, Richie went viral for the fake tush push video he put up.
Mm-hmm.
He had retweets from who? Richie? Or maybe not retweets, but the video got shared by a lot of big accounts.
Yahoo, obviously, but that's our owner. The Athletic, Sports Illustrated, The Score, just about anyone and everyone. And you know who didn't share it? And I saw it on Twitter. They shared it their own video. I think it was Warren Sapp. Warren Sharp. That's what it was.
He always takes his own videos of the TV.
Yeah,
it's right there. But whatever, it is what it is. This one I mentioned his name before. My number one candidate is Lyle Hemphill, James Madison defensive coordinator. They already got a James Madison defensive tackle. They're the favorite probably right now, I would argue, for James Madison defensive end. Eric O'Neill, like Lyle Hemphill, his numbers are great. And he also just helped coach a team that beat UNC this year. A UNC team that I think put up like 50 points, which not good on the defensive part, but they also scored 70 points.
70.
Yeah. I think he's a very good DC. He's young, he's up and coming, and he almost fits the similar mold to a Joe Harris-Simiak type.
He's also from, well, I guess similar to Joe Harris-Simiak. He's from the area, from Delaware. He has familiarity, at the very least, a little bit with Kirk Schrocker. They were on the same staff at, I believe, Delaware it is.
Yep.
And then he also worked a lot with Mike Elko, who's another Jersey guy, too, who's had a lot of defensive success. He's had some really good defenses at the Power 4 level in the ACC. And he's done it quickly, too. Like, he spent, I think, 3 or 4 schools in 5 years, I want to say, and he's had good defenses. So, yeah, that's I agree. That's my number one as well.
He was DB coach at Duke under Rob Smith as DC as well. So there's another little connection there. So if Greg really needs to go ask someone for recommendations, he could go do that. He could just go down the hall and say, "Hey, Kirk, is this guy any good?" Like,
yeah, I guess the question there, as Anthony Bocelli just put it out in the chat, is how they figure out the linebacker coaching situation, because he primarily works with DBs. He's been a safeties coach and nickels coach. So I'm not sure how that would work out, if they would hire a new linebackers coach or they move someone around on the staff currently. I don't know.
Yeah. Charlie Noonan's coaching them currently. He has coaching experience. He actually, I think, might actually have coordinator experience now that I think about it, down at Lehigh, which doesn't really matter. But I would assume either he gets the job because he's going to get it eventually. I think he's a pretty solid coach. Or you can do this like special teams coach off the field type thing, and whoever your DC is coaches whatever. But for the most part, a lot of DCs also do coach linebackers. Like even like you go throughout all college coaching staffs, it's always DC linebacker, OC quarterbacks for the most part. Some situations are different, of course, but
yeah, it's kind of that same vein where like the linebackers are the quarterback of the defense. They're calling out the plays, they're calling out the adjustments, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. We have over 1,000 people watching on a Thursday night.
We did it.
We did it.
Yeah, we broke 1,000. Clap. Please clap. But we are happy to do this. We really appreciate everybody joining in, for following the pod. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you are watching this on YouTube, right below here, right here-ish, a little off the screen. the subscribe button. Please hit that. Once we get to 5,000 subscribers, we'll find something to give away as we normally do. But we want to thank everybody who's joined us on this ride for the 2024 Rutgers football season. The off season is now going to be right in full swing. Portal closes, like we said, on the 28th. We've already landed, 6 guys in the portal. We're going to land probably 5 or 6 more. So stay tuned because we will have you covered with everything portal related. We'll have every basketball game covered as well. Any parting shots you guys want to send off before we head out of here? Alec, I'll let you start.
Let's see. I guess it's been an interesting season. A lot of good, a lot of not so good. Maybe some more players returning than we might have thought to start the season. The offseason, I think, is off to a very good start, the way that they've attacked the portal, the way the 2025 recruiting class turned out. It's going to be 2025 is going to be a very fascinating season. Where they go for this defensive coordinator hire is going to be very fascinating as well. It's just it's all very interesting as the Seattle Seahawks have a 6-3 lead with 5 minutes to go and then
They turn it off.
60-minute NFL game against the Chicago Bears. So I'm just really on a roll. So that's all I got. Appreciate everyone for the support throughout the year. I know I had a lot of fun, covering even in some of the losses, things like that. So yeah. Also, to everyone who recognized me for the podcast and stuff, thank you. It's still taking a little bit of getting used to for that.
The fame.
But no, it's been a fun year. Hopefully I'm back next year for another football season.
I'll think about it. I can't really top what Alex said, but Merry Christmas to whoever celebrated it. Happy holidays to everyone else. It was a hell of a year, hell of a ride. Didn't think 7 wins was going to be it. I actually thought, I don't even know what I predicted at the end of the day, but it's not the point.
9.
They overhit, so that's some winning for some people. The overhit in the game too. On top of that, I was talking over under wins, but yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was a fun year. There was a lot of highs to start, and then a lot of lows, and then a lot of highs again, and then another low. But I think things are going to move pretty quickly here for Greg Schiano and crew. I said they don't really take days off. I guarantee you he'll be in the office tomorrow, probably watching film. I think he'll have a DC hire before the second week in January is the coaches convention. So I think in this next week or two there'll be a coaching hire. And the portal is very active. I think this next year's team has a chance to be very special. I think the schedule gets a lot harder, and that's what makes things more difficult, I should say. But I think next year's team has a chance to put up some serious numbers offensive wise, not 29.8 or 29.9, maybe a little more. Maybe they strive and hit the 30 mark. I think that everything that they've added so far, this team is going to be really legit, and they're bringing back a lot of pieces. Brian Felter, Mohamed Toure, Tyler Needham, the list goes on and on. Every single tight end from the tight end room because they all got hurt. I think that they have a chance for a special season next year. So definitely stay tuned. And hopefully on Monday, we're not doing an emergency season podcast for basketball. Season draining podcast or whatever. You're on mute, Mike.
Strike 3.
Strike 3, you're out.
Strike 3. That is me being out. That's what I get for drinking 6 beers during the game. But
no more Adidas. It's done. It's over.
Adidas.
Done.
That's
You can
gone.
burn those uniforms.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We are going to head out to all 1,084 of you guys. The churro dog was legit.
Yes.
Hell yeah. I saw a bunch of people posting that and tagging you, Rich. That was pretty cool.
You guys are welcome. I was also completely wrong on that price. I was probably a little bombed when I bought it, to be fair.
How much was it?
I think it was only $15 or $13. Yeah, see, it wasn't 20 or whatever.
Everyone who bought it was probably like, "Wow, I'm totally scamming the stadium."
Yeah.
Hopefully, I didn't see the price they rung it up for. All right. Well, we are going to head out of here. Thanks for everyone who's listened to us the entire season. As I said that for the 4th time now, but we're going to head out. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, have a good one of those. But we will see you shortly. I'm sure for me and Rich and for Alec, this has been another live edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.